Dogman and Son. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I've got a story. Well, actually, I have 3 stories if you want to hear them. They're stories about me, my father, a dogman, and the dogman's father. You might say I sort of grew up with that younger dogman, at least to some extent. First, I'd better explain my father, because he's the only reason this all happened to me. Dad was not sensible. He was too friendly to too many people and animals. He always assumed the best about everyone, even when they were obviously getting ready to screw him over. This is probably why we ended up living in a cabin in the woods and hunting for a living. It wasn't that Dad didn't want to fit in. It was just that nobody else wanted him to fit in. He was an original thinker. And nobody wants a poor guy who can think for himself. That's a dangerous thing to be in the human world. Let's face it, if you're rich, they call you eccentric. But if you are not wealthy, they've got a whole long ugly list of other words that they'll apply to you. If you're born into the working class, you're not supposed to think. You're only supposed to follow orders. So when even my mom left him, Dad raised me in the woods in Pennsylvania. I had learned to read when I still went to school, and I sort of self-taught myself everything after that. We had dusty old books in that cabin that I think had belonged to a previous owner, and I read them all from cover to cover. I always wanted to be a writer, and I guess I still do. I'm hoping to retire in 5 or 6 years, so maybe that can be the time for me to start writing finally. I tell you, your channel makes me want to write stories about these dogmen we used to encounter. I guess this email is the start of me wrapping my head around all those old Pennsylvania dogman experiences. There are a couple of pioneer cemeteries in the woods near the Tuscarora State Forest. Dad and I came upon one of them randomly in the late afternoon one day as the sun was beginning to set, and it was quite a striking scene. Some of the richer people had full-on tombstones, but others had much smaller rocks placed over their final resting places. If they once had names engraved on them, I suppose those names are now as much a part of the past as the individuals whose remains they mark. It was a humbling experience, and a weirdly saddening one as well. There was this heavy mood, as though we had come there to pass on or something. I didn't like it. I wanted to get out of there, but before I could say that to my father, out of nowhere came a small gray puppy, running right up to me, then dancing and jumping at my feet. I don't think I was more than maybe 13 at the time, so the puppy and I instantly started playing and became friends inside of 2 seconds. We were having a ball, and I could hear my father laughing at our acrobatics and antics. Then, something bellowed so loudly that my ears hurt, and my knees went weak underneath me. I had only ever felt my knees do that once before, when we ran across a mama bear, and my mind went directly to the idea that this might not be a puppy that I was playing with at all. This might be a baby wolf. I must be being roared at by a mother wolf. But wait, wolves don't roar, you know? So I was moving my eyes and my head to turn to see what exactly was making that terrible shouting sound. I felt like time had slowed down to an almost halt, and I wondered if this is what you feel when you're about to pass on. When I saw what it was making that sound, my knees actually did collapse, and I fell backward clumsily, trying to catch myself on a tree, but failing. I was sitting on the ground looking up at a very angry canine, but a canine that was standing up on its hind legs. That was a feat I was unable to manage just then. I got a good long look at that mama bear dog thing, and one of the things I noticed was that it was not a mama at all. It was definitely a papa bear, but it was also definitely not a bear. To me, that looked like an upright walking wolf, but the paws were somewhat more like bear claws, I'm not sure what to compare the claws to, honestly, as they look like dog paws, but function more like human hands. Imagine bear claws with the final claw offset more like a thumb. Then imagine it looking somehow very canine. I suppose I'll have to get better at describing things if I really do want to become a writer. The short version of it was that I was looking up at the scariest monster I'd ever seen in my life. And my only question was in which way it was going to tear me apart. Was it going to stomp me out of existence? Was it going to bite my head off? It literally had jaws that looked large enough to do just that. I was seeing my short life pass in front of me. I was so sad about all the things I would never get to do. When I was sitting on the dirt looking up, that dogman might as well have been as big as Godzilla. That's what it seemed like to me. And I was an ant underneath him. I flinched as I thought I was being attacked from the rear, but it was only my dad. He had walked up and leaned over to pull me to my feet. He whispered at me to be quiet, so I was. After I was standing again, Dad put his arm around me and I hugged him. Hard. The puppy excitedly and happily danced and pranced all around, jumping up on me in a playful manner. I held my breath because I expected to either be bellowed at again or possibly something worse. Instead, that Papa Dogman just turned around and walked away from us, emerging back into the woodline. The puppy and I returned to playing, and that night he even slept just outside our tent flap as though he were guarding us. In the morning, he was gone. My father told me that the Papa Dogman had come to collect him in the night. To my father, this was the time he was proudest of me. He lectured on and on the next morning about what an honor we had just received. That dogman respected us as fellow hunters and did not treat us as prey, my father insisted. When he saw me defend you, and when he saw his son's reaction, he realized we were the same as him. We were just carnivores, out carnivoring. Dad had a colorful way of speaking, but you always understood what he was trying to communicate. Even as a kid, I knew he was a screwball, but I loved him anyway. There's no way he would be allowed custody of me in the modern world. He was just too much of an individualist. He was a very proud American as well, which these days they say is a bad thing. Dad was a man of his time, but he was quite a man. Who else would have let his son play with a dogman pup? My father and I encountered that dogman again, and his son 2 more times. Those are 2 more stories I can tell, although they might not be scary enough for your channel. I mean, I guess they're scary in places. I'm an extremely lucky man. I've had multiple encounters with that dogman family, and I came away unharmed, and I feel enriched. How many people use a word like enriched when describing their dogman encounter? But that's how I still feel to this day about the time that my father and I encountered. Dogman and Son. We're quite grateful, if you can't tell, because of our EP Michelle. Please join me in thanking today's executive producer, Michelle Rich. In return, Michelle receives our secret uncensored Dogman stories far too wild to tell on this channel. YouTube changed something recently to severely limit our channel, and they no longer are serving our videos to people who aren't already subscribed. You need half your audience to be fresh, or else your channel stops growing and moves backward, which is what's been forced on us in the last month and a half. If you would like to see us here on into the future, please check out this important message from our buddy Henry. Thank you. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos, or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.